Hey, there, it's me, Eden. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to my channel and visit my Patreon page for early access. Link in the comment, thanks. Sarah was graduating third in her class, and had received an award as most courageous senior, and they had asked her to make a little speech. Actually, if she hadn't gotten cancer, she might have at least tied for valedictorian. I was pleased to be in the top 10%. She had even considered not going to graduation, because her leg was acting up again, her stump, I mean. 8 days before graduation, Sarah Beth developed a problem that her doctor says is fairly common among amputees. Her stump developed an inflammation. That new part used her wheelchair, keeping her prosthesis strapped to her for cosmetic reasons. I just don't want to be pitted and stared at, she said when I asked if she would be more comfortable without it. At home, she took it off and swung around quite rapidly on crutches. She had doctor's appointments to get antibiotics and cortisone to fight infection and swelling, and an appointment with the artificial limb people to reconform the leg to her stump. But none of that would work in time for today, when it was so important for her to walk across the stage to get her diploma, to stand at the podium to make her speech. At one point, she was so low that she thought she might not even go to graduation, speech or no speech. It was such a drag to spend the last week of high school in a wheelchair. Now she had decided to go, and to walk on her one leg and crutches. Yes, I was proud. I don't remember too much about graduation except Sarah's speech and us getting our diplomas. She had been sitting on the stage in her wheelchair from the beginning. Then the assistant principal said some nice things about her being an inspiration, and Sarah got up on her crutches. Everybody applauded wildly as she made her way to the platform. Thank you, Mrs. Timmerman. Excuse me. I'm a little embarrassed, but I'm happy, too, I guess. Please let me make like the Academy Awards and thank everybody first. I want to thank my teachers for helping me, and my family because they've been through so much, Joni Hudnut, who has been a big help at helping me adjust to life with a disability, and especially Mark, my fiancé, who loved me even when I was bald and grumpy, and Annie, who isn't here tonight, but who was my roommate at Hope Haven, and who was the only person who kept me from giving up completely. Of course by this time, tears were running down my cheek. Anyway, I'm not sure why the seniors voted for me for this award, because I'm not really courageous, I'm just surrounded by a lot of wonderful people. Something bad happened to me last year, something that could happen to any of us, cancer, or an accident, or whatever, and I've just had to have faith in God and deal with it the best I can. But again, what kept me going was the knowledge that I was never alone. One of our classmates died this spring, and he died like he lived, alone. I felt for him and I pray for him constantly, but I only wish that I could have gotten beyond my own problems and reached out to him when he was alive. So that's all I want to say. Surround one another with love. My burden in life is kind of noticeable. A lot of you are carrying burdens that aren't so visible. But bear each other's burdens, and it'll be okay. Thanks. Race day. Annie. Annie. Roberta yelled as she hugged my legs. She had already called Sarah and hugged her. I loved the exuberant welcome from our little friend, but it was a little confusing, since I wasn't Annie today. This was the day I was going to introduce her to Mark. We had arrived at their apartment on a Friday morning when my bicycling team, the Ocelots, were going to race in a rally with several different teams from around our state. I hadn't been as active on the team with spending more time with Sarah and planning our wedding, but I was still able to hold my own, and they needed me. We had called Vicky and agreed that we would meet them at their apartment and take them to the race, so her daughter would have a chance to meet Mark. Well, Mark is Mark. Hi, Annie, I'm so glad to see you, she beamed up at me. Hi. You must be Roberta. I'm Mark, Sarah's boyfriend. No, you're not, you're Annie, she grinned. Quit teasing me. I had my spandex ocelot uniform on, which she had seen me in last summer as Annie, so I guess I could see where she could get confused, even with my hair in a somewhat boyish cut. It was short on the sides, but I was growing the top and back longer to get my ponytail back. I really am a boy, Roberta. I really am Mark, and I really am going to marry Sarah this summer, and I really want you to be our flower girl, okay? Vicky mouthed to me something. I thought she said, she knows. Then Roberta said, I know you're Mark, but I know you're Annie, too. By now Sarah and I were totally confused. We went inside for coffee and a Danish. I'm sorry, kids, but after the last time you were here and you said that Annie wasn't going to be at the wedding, she decided that she didn't want to do it. She cried and cried. Finally, I explained that Annie and Mark were really the same person, and that you were Annie last summer because that's the only way you could help Sarah get well. And that you dressed up as Annie to see us just because she liked Annie so well, and because you liked her that much, too, Vicky explained. A good explanation, but I'm sure it's still confusing to her. It is to me, sometimes, I admitted. Renato helped me explain it to her, the curly-haired lady told us wistfully. Renato? Sarah and I asked. Renato is my friend, Roberta said. I carry him around inside me, so he's always with me. He likes it when I have fun, because he has fun, too. I'd like to meet Renato, I said. He sounds like a nice boy. You can't meet him, she said. He's inside me. Right here. Roberta tapped her chest. Then I thought I understood, but Vicky clarified it. Renato was a little boy, 7 years old, who was part of a migrant worker family in Kansas. Their pickup truck overturned. Renato fell out. He was brain dead. But his mother, bless her heart, in all her grief, said yes, when they asked about organ donations. So we know that Renato's in heaven right now, but he's also a part of Roberta. And yes, we do believe that whenever Roberta has fun, Renato's having fun, too. So, Mark, since she understands about having a little boy inside of her, she can understand that you're a boy, but you have Annie inside of you. She knows Annie and loves her. But she'll love you as Mark, too. Just give her time. We put Roberta's little bicycle on the rack on the roof of my Jeep wagon, right next to my big racing bike, and all drove off to the rally. Roberta wore her way oversized pink helmet and the red and blue ribbon I had given her last summer. Of course, that was only after she had me try it on. Sarah, Vicky, and Roberta settled down in lawn chairs and a blanket with the other spectators near the start/finish line. During the day, we had several sprints and a few longer races. When I was between races, I noticed a guy from the host team staring at me whenever he thought that I was looking the other way. I recognized him as the guy that I, as Annie, had beaten last summer. This could be bad. If he found out that I was the girl who had caused him to bike back into town with the hair ribbon that Roberta now wore, and that I was a guy, he would probably punch me out and tell everyone, including my Fort Russell teammates, that I was some sort of fairy queen. How should I handle it? I couldn't pretend I was Annie, since I was racing in men's competition. If I acted as nervous as I felt, he might be able to figure it out. So I had to lie boldly. I walked up to him and said, I'm sorry, you keep looking my way. Do I know you? He introduced himself, and said that he had met another member of my team last summer, who looked an awful lot like me, except that she was a girl. You think I look like a girl, huh? I asked. He apologized. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it that way. These uniforms are sort of unisex, and you're about her height and size, and your face is shaped a little like hers. Now that you're close up, I can see you aren't her. So how did you get to know this girl? I asked innocently. Well, not very. I was just out bicycling one day, and I met her down at the riverfront park. We got talking, and we rode up a trail to restaurant, and had a Coke and fries. Nice girl, in a plain sort of way, but she had these flashy fingernails and had some silly long ribbons in her hair like that little girl over there. I didn't get very far with her, or anything. I smiled. Oh, I think I know who you meant. It sounds like my fiancé's sister. She's in college now, a real jock, basketball player. Her name's Julie. But a lot of people think we look like brother and sister. She'll be my sister-in-law soon enough, though, I grinned. She has sort of a blonde bubble hairdo. Yeah, that must have been her, he admitted. Well, thanks. Good to meet you. Have a good race. I'll try, I smiled. I did, too. I didn't win any, but I finished with points in 2 sprints and the longer road race. Even more important, Annie was safe. On the way back to Vicky and Roberta's, Vicky smiled and asked, "Do you want a part-time job next fall?" We weren't going to have much time for outside work, but we asked what she meant. You won't be the only two in school next fall. I want to get my GED in evening school, but I need somebody to watch Roberta. You could still get your studying done with her around, and since she loves you too, it seems like a nice match. If I send her to evening daycare, I won't have enough money left over for luxuries like food or clothing. Vicky had gotten pregnant in high school and dropped out to marry Roberta's father, who had gotten so frightened by having a daughter with a severe heart defect that he had deserted the two. Vicky had been working as a waitress. Although she was the mother of an 8-year-old, Vicky was barely 6 years older than we were. That's why it was easier to strike up a friendship with her than with the other parents at Hope Haven. That's great, Sarah told her. I'm so proud of you, Vicky. Of course we can, can't we, Mark? I agreed, too. Roberta squealed with delight. It wouldn't pay much, but we had a job that wouldn't interfere with our studies, well, not much, anyway. More important was the friendship factor. Please subscribe for the next part. And visit my Patreon page for early access.